The conflict is playing out in the most dangerous security environment I've seen in my professional career. Russia has moved from a conventional military advantage in Eastern Europe broadly to a disadvantage now. And in Ukraine specifically, its forces are unable to make any serious advance. Russia is economically and technologically isolated now. And this will impact their ability to rebuild his military, something he must do. On the other hand, Putin's actions have united NATO and aligned NATO and the EU. The security mindset has shifted significantly in Europe, as we've seen historic reversals of foreign policy and shifts in defense posture across the continent. The Biden administration has made clear that Beijing would face negative consequences of global proportions if China were to agree to Russia's request for assistance in the war. Therefore, China is attempting to support Russia with some non-military resources and in the UN, while also ensuring that their trade is not impacted by sanction violations or overt support for Russia's actions. I think this is likely to be a long and drawn-out conflict. The conflict is playing out in the most dangerous security environment I've seen in my professional career, one that is marked by few arms controls or agreed limits, emerging disruptive technologies, and continued competition with an ascending and more aggressive China, potentially emboldened regional threats like Iran and North Korea, and we still have global terrorism. We're in the midst of what I call, a change to the character of war. In other words, how it's fought. And so there are emerging technologies today, like cyber, use in space, artificial intelligence. All of those things are coming into play right now. And really the challenge is not only understanding each one of those, but the nexus of those things. And we're not there yet. We're in the midst of seeing these being employed.
One of the common discussions that we have internally and that we hear is that people do expect the war to end sooner than later, right? Or that Ukraine will win it or others. But Russia may not care how long this goes on because the sanctions are in place. They can tolerate that.
So the Federal Reserve has made a tremendous about face on how it's approaching monetary policy. We view it as a pro-cyclical policy. Last year, during the recovery, in a year of 5.5% economic growth, the Fed eased throughout. It eased into the early part of this year. Now, it has communicated rapid monetary tightening. And this has generated the largest period of joint stock and bond declines at the same time. Clearly, with the dollar at a 20-year high, this has been a period in which we've gone from having rates rise because the outlook for the economy was recovering to one in which rates were rising because the Federal Reserve was going to beat us down with tighter monetary policy.
If the general is correct and the war goes on for a much longer period than we might expect, then the nature of the supply disruptions that are exogenous will continue, and the ability of the Fed to actually deal with that type of inflation, whether it's in agricultural goods, manufacturing goods, or in the actual cost of raw materials, will go on for longer. And so the net effect then of higher rates would actually be to further dampen the economy and actually cause it to slow, and that actually may just not be that effective. If the Fed actually raises rates, and if the Fed actually sees the supply equilibria taking place, and if they're concerned about the impact that they could have on actual growth rates in the US, they're going to have to make a choice whether to continue to raise rates, driving us into recession, or actually make a pause.